Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here with Jason Perez from Shelf Stories, the one-stop co-op shop. How you doing, Jason?
Yo, peoples, what's up? One Stop Co-op Shop special today, people. We're not gonna break down the culture wars. We're not gonna toss bombs into our general discourse and do what we do. No. Games on the table today, people. Love this game that's coming up. Oh wait, spoiler alert. Sorry about that. A
Uh,
game is coming up.
a game that we might have been interested in playing together because this is very on brand for us.
Very
We
on
are
brand.
doing a co-review of Stellarion, which is the newest entry into the Oniverse. And of course, Jason and I have ranked all of our previous Oniverse game opinions, and I'll link that below. But we're not going to do another full re-rank today, but we do want to review and talk about Stellarion.
So if you open the Stellarion box, this is kind of an announcement that came with Stellarion. We are Shaddy has announced the full Oniverse, right? We know what's coming. We're getting a game. It's a game a year. So like we're getting a game next year, and then we're getting a repackaged Urbion the year after. So the big box and whatever, because he owns it now. It's his. It's not Z-Man's anymore. And so we're gonna get the repackaged Urbion. Then we're getting Ultimon, I think it's called. So Ultimon being the final Oniverse game. So when Ultimon comes out, people, we will re-rank all of them in a big video.
Yes, we will do a whole big celebration of a tremendous series in solo gaming. But for now, Stellarion.
Stellarion.
It's so cute. So yeah, this is a new publisher other than Z-Man, but it really looks just like the old ones. Like you open it up, there's a little fold out, there's a meeple that somehow plays with the expansions.
Yep.
It does everything it's supposed to do. So Jason, you want to just give like a quick overview of the game, and then so everybody out there, I'm going to record a little how to solo for it in the coming weeks, and then I'll link it down below. Jason's already got one out, so I'll link that. So if you want to see some gameplay, go check out his video on the One Stop Co-op Shop.
Not only do I have some gameplay, you know how I roll in One Stop Co-op Shop. I have this for all of the Oniverses on the One Stop Co-op Shop. I have a playthrough of the game with all the expansions mixed in. I don't mess around, people. As soon as I started to learn the base game, I'm like, all right, module, let's get this thing filmed. So Stellarion is a deck futzing game, deck management game. It's all cards, right? So it's kind of in a way getting back to the Oniverse's roots. Onirim was all cards, and this is the one game where it's like, okay, now we're going to play a classic feeling solitaire game. Only the deck management is accomplished through a set of powers. So you're going to have a deck of cards. I think it's 50 cards, 60 cards, that is split up into 8 piles. You have 2 major suits and I think 4 minor suits in each individual one. There's a theme, whatever the theme. Well, I think your creatures launching into space or something, or exploring space.
Yeah, you're like an astronomer, and you have ships to launch, but you need to know the location. So it's like a nebula, a star, and a planet. Whatever. You're matching suits. Okay, there's 4 suits. You're matching
the
suits.
Oniverse games, so Onirim has no theme. Stellarion has no theme. It's just a motif to organize what you're doing. So like in terms of the major and minor suits, you have galaxy suits, and you have object suits.
Yeah, basically there's like 2 ways to define the cards, right? There's color, so there's 4 different colors, and then each color you have 4 different kinds of cards. So you got the ship, which is the one like big object, and then you got like your little triangulation thing going on. So it's like, oh, the nebula, the planet, and the star. And it's like, oh, if I know where all these things are, then I can launch the ship. So you have to have 4 of each. Well, you have to 1 of each of the 4 kinds of card in the same color in order to launch a ship, but everything's buried in these decks of cards. So you have to like do all these actions to dig them up.
Right, exactly. So so basically that is the game. So the game is digging cards out of 8 piles, and you're doing that by executing power. So that's what makes it different from a classic solitaire game. There's no powers in a classic solitaire game. Here, if you have, so the top card of each of the 8 piles is visible, and if you match the individual suits, if you match 2 rockets, and if you match 2 planets, you can do a power. And that's where the game is. So which power do you use at which particular time? You have to discard the cards. So you have to do so in the most efficient way possible. So that's where the management comes in. You can't just fire off power and expect to do well. You have to really figure out, okay, calculate the odds of what is in each individual pile, calculate the chances that you'll get the card that you need.
Yes.
And then sometimes you're stuck and you have to like go to do the star power is like, okay, shuffle and pick up 2 random cards and maybe you will get something. And that's a terrible power, but a terrible power overall when you don't know exactly what you're going for, but you might need to do it because you need to get things going. And then eventually you do this big match. So the big match is 4 of the object suits. So 4 of the object suits in one galaxy. And then once you discard those 4 cards simultaneously, then you'll get a voyage card. And you have to discard 8 voyage cards in the base game. You have to do
Right.
that
So like
8 times.
Gosh, like I definitely messed up a lot the first few times I played it, because if you discard too many cards,
Right.
then you won't have enough left to do that 4 match to actually launch anything.
Right.
So you can do powers to your heart's content, but if you do too many rocket powers, which is my big weakness because I like being able to just get what I want out of the deck and move it up to the top. Like, I'm a selfish person. I want what I want. I want it now.
Right.
So, like I have a tendency to be like, well, this one risk won't matter. I can get away with it.
Right.
And then I'll discard too many of one thing and then be like, oh crap.
Right. So the card powers, the 4 card powers, and they all relate to managing something in a deck. So you have so Liz was mentioning the ship power. The ship lets you kind of dive into one deck and get one individual card. Another power was the planets. They let you reserve cards. So it's like, okay, I can't do anything with this now, but I'm going to reserve this off to the side and then keep on going and then wait for a match. Another power is kind of the thing I mentioned with the stars. You see more cards, but it's a little bit more random. So it's kind of scrying a deck. And then you can Nebula, which is retrieving discarded cards. So there is a way to retrieve discarded cards, but not many. And you discarding Nebula in order to retrieve the discarded cards. It is very much a management game. You're not relying on the theme here. You have to really like classic feeling card play in order to enjoy Stellarion.
Yes, and you have to be good at being alert to what needs to be left in a given deck in order to get what you want. So there's a bit of card counting involved. However, it's not a memory game in the sense that you know the composition of each deck, and you're allowed to look through the discard pile. Like, actually, I noticed from your playthrough, you and I both like to kind of fan the discard out so that you can see what is in there right now. So you can use process of elimination, know what still must be in the decks that remain. So, you don't have to remember a lot, but you do have to be aware of like the original contents of those decks, what must still be buried in there somewhere. And you have to bring that into your calculations when you're choosing your actions.
It's not really a memory game. Like, you have to remember what is in each deck, but once you get kind of the math of the game, you're gonna know.
Exactly.
It's like a Friedman Freeze game, like I think of finished, or some of his other kind of 2F games. You have to remember what's in the deck and like straight up like a memory type situation. Here, if you fan that discard out, you can fish to it in time. And the deck is very stable. You're not like remixing the deck every single turn. It's so that sounds like, well, am I playing the same game every time? Well, that initial deal, that top card is gonna be different. And the way that you combine the order in which you combine cards could be different. So yeah, I mean, it is a classic feeling card game. And I kind of want to go into my final thing, but I think we've described the game. Oh wait, expansion modules.
We gotta talk about the modules, because I really think that they make the game like more on. But the base game is pretty base. It's entertaining.
It's base.
It's base. It's like just doing the little card math will entertain you until you kind of figure it out. But then you gotta have the modules. So there are several for this game, which I thought were pretty good. So correct me. Okay, there's the black holes. So if you get enough black holes, you can discard a bunch of them to remove a lot of those gold cards.
Yeah. So so in every universe game, you do a good. It gives you a good and a bad thing.
Yes.
So, and you have a challenge, and then it's a fruit if you overcome the challenge. So then with the black holes, you shuffle them into the deck, 1 per, and you can't do anything with them as if they're like 1, 2, or 3. So they'll gunk up your tableau, right? Yes. So you have to manage. If you watch my playthrough, I'm like, oh please, where's my 4th black hole? Once you get the 4th black hole, then you can discard multiple voyages, and the game balances that by you shuffle in multiple of the gold cards, the voyages of the gold cards. So that's black holes.
Yes. There's also it's observations and discoveries, where you're watching for certain conditions to appear in your tableau. So you have to be able to see, there we go. Then you have to see 3 planets, and you have to see 3 nebulae, whatever order those tokens come up in. Right. So it adds an extra goal to your game, but you do get a cool power that you randomly draw in exchange. So like you pay up by having to find certain things in your tableau, and then you are rewarded with a good power.
Yeah.
And I liked mirrors. That was cool, actually.
Yeah, you get mirrors is another card you shuffle into the deck. You get another shot at your minor powers. So if you, in terms of the firing off the powers, you can fire from minor power, which is 2 same objects of different suits. If you do 2 of the same object, same suit, then it's a major power. So mirrors let you give you access to extra minor powers, and then there's a trade-off there. And that you have to obviously discover another voyage there. And then the other one, which I mispronounced. The
Glaucous Sun.
The Glaucous Sun. I called it the Globulous Sun. Because I remember from old G.I. Joe, it's like the Globulous or whatever it is. So this is a token, and this is where the token plays in.
Yes.
The little meeple guy. So then as you fire off major and minor powers, you're proceeding on a track. And it's a countdown timer. Basically, it adds a countdown timer to your game. The game already has a countdown timer because the decks are finite, but this one adds like a physicality to the timer, where it's like every time you fire for power, you progress the thing. If you do a launch, you progress it a lot. You can sacrifice action to kind of move the thing back, but it's basically you're manipulating a timer. Yes. And it's cool. Like I
really liked it, actually, especially the way that you can back it up and like get rewards for doing that. So I'm getting at the meeple just because. So I looked up Glaucus because I was like, is this Greek? What is this?
Yeah.
Because like there's a lot of Greek people named Glaucon and like mythology stuff. It means like a gray green color. So I would say that the meeple is accurate. Like it is in fact a Glaucous Sun. So there you go.
It's the same meeple as what's on the cover.
Yes.
So the little rising sun of like this rising weird sun. So yeah, that's a lot of description, but we're trying to paint a word picture over here of Stellarion. Very much a classic distilled card game. The base game is very much, you like a lot of the Oniverse games, the base game is like the distilled, boiled down version. You're doing one thing and over again. And then the modules add a lot of that seasoning, that flavor.
Yes. So final thoughts. What'd you think, Jason?
I really like this game.
You know what? I did too. At first, when I was just playing the base game, I was like, I don't know about this. Right. But then as I started to add the modules in, I liked it more and more. I think this might be like a full module or at least a couple kind of game, but then I really, really liked it.
So I am context, right? I'm a classic card lover. I grew up playing solitaire. And all sorts of solitaire. Like there's the Klondike solitaire, but then I'm the type of guy that would like look up books and be like, okay, what else can I do with this 52 card deck? And I'd run through like a series of 10 different solitaire games, and that's how I grew up. And I'm a card man. I just love cards. So I had the same experience throughout my first half play of like, okay, what's happening here? Because it is so dry. So you compare it to a game like Sylveon. Sylveon it evokes the feeling of a tower defense game because it gives you that movement of the cards. The Plant vs. Zombie styles, moving towards whatever the goal is, and whatever you think of Sylveon, it feels good because the game does things to evoke the sense of its theme. This game does nothing to evoke anything in terms of theme. It is basically a purely mathematical experience. And I shouldn't say purely because you're not doing any math. It's like you can tell like the deck is mathematically constructed. Like there's a sound basis to it. Like you're still doing card stuff, but it's very much like based on a system of like, okay, 1 through 10 and 2 of
like
this.
It's mathy the way that Sudoku is mathy. Like you can count stuff, but it's more about reasoning than about math.
It's that's probably the better way to put it. It's more about reasoning, calculating odds. And just managing resources, but the foundation is very mathematically sound. And I say that because if you play the base game, you will only have like 2 cards left every single time. It is constructed such that the game will play out. You'll get there differently, but like you'll get to this basically the same place because the math is so tight and so refined. So so I'm playing the card game and it's okay, but then I because I appreciate like that those kind of games, and I appreciate how soundly this was made. Like it was like, okay, like the end of the game felt tense. And obviously, if you don't like the game, you're not going to feel the tension. You just could be like, okay, get this over with. But I was like, oh, there's some stakes here. I have to,
Yeah.
I only have one moon left, and I have to, make sure I have to dig the moon out with the nebula. That leaves me with only one nebula left. And so I got into that, and that was cool, And I was like, okay, and I played the base game, I don't know, like 10 times straight, just to like, okay, because I was bad at it at first. And it really like the tendency is just kind of fire off powers. You don't know like which cards to use to fire off the powers, and then you figure it out. Like use powers off of the top deck and try to set yourself up so that the bottom deck is your big set match. And okay, use these powers these ways to try to save some major coordinates are really powerful and all that kind of stuff. So once I figured it out, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I did the base game. The base game I enjoyed. Like I think I enjoyed the base game way more than you.
I do like though there is a learning curve, because
Yes.
I think that a solo gamer needs such a thing. Yeah, and like when I say the base, like I enjoyed my first place the base game. It's just that I would not play the base game only forever.
Mhm.
It's a good place to start, but then
Yeah.
I actually thought it becomes a much richer experience just from adding different types of cards and just throwing some little surprises in there.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I'm going to compare this a lot to Sylveon, because of the nature of the pureness of the cards. And so Sylveon, I won my first game, and like I kind of figured out, okay, put down a big fountain,
Yeah,
and use the other cards to kind of direct the bad cards into the fountain, because and whatever. So I was able to crack that code really easily. And I like Arion because it's just a fun game to play. It feels fun, but in terms of its construction, it's like, okay, I figured this out pretty quickly.
yeah,
Here, it took, I don't know, I don't think I started winning consistently until like my fourth, fifth play. Because I didn't figure it out. Like I'm sitting there with like, my 3 voyages there, and my decks are out. I'm like, what? I'm never this bad at games. So I had to play it in order to kind of grok it. And so it took a little while. And eventually I got it. I think my win rate is pretty much above 70% at this point. But so that was, and I still enjoy the activity of the game. So that's the base game.
yeah.
Then we get start mixing in expansions. And you're right. You start to mix in the expansions. You start to mix in that track. I think the track is the best one.
I agree. Actually, it's very threatening. It ramps up the tension.
Yeah.
And it, being able to back it up is also very exciting.
Yeah. So in order to back it up, you have to take an action, but sacrifice or discard the cards for an action. Yeah. Take the action, but discard the reward. And so you don't want to discard your reward.
Yeah, you kind of need it to get through the deck, but
kind of need it, and especially like you can do a big backup by sacrificing a major coordinate action. Major coordinate actions are great. Like discarding 2 of the same card. There's only 4 of the same card in the deck.
Yeah.
So discarding 2 of those cards is like, oh my god, and so I don't want to sacrifice an action. So, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
And the game gives you a little goodie if you do it, in terms of backing up the thing. You get some more resources. But but like the timer of it, and like it feels very like the little meeple's kind of coming at you and everything.
Yeah.
And if it arrives in your home world, then you die. And then some of the other, and so I like to play the big games of Oniverse. Not everybody does, because the big games of Oniverse, they tend to make the game very long. So you're sitting there like a big game of Arion takes over an hour, which is way too much time for most people with an Oniverse game. I love it. I don't care, because I just think I love the extra little buttons to push. So this isn't that bad. I don't think it takes an hour to play the big Stellarion game, but it might be a little bit long for people. I think they want to know that like 1 or 2 expansions are good to mix in. Yeah, and like mix in one of the other expansions and the board, and I think that's the ideal experience for this game.
Yeah, I think that, like, for example, I think the Glaucus Sun and maybe like mirrors make for a really good match, because mirrors give you more matching opportunities, which gives you a little bit of chance to manipulate that sun a little bit better. Right. But of course, just remember, everything you mix in gives you more little voyage cards that you have to actually complete. You have to launch more rockets in response to adding in more powers and goodies. Right. So be warned, there are consequences for taking all those. But
I just continue to be really impressed with the Oniverse in terms of the base game is fun. You add in modules, and each individual module is fun, and then you add in every module, and that's fun too. And at any point in that chain, it could break. Like I can see adding in 4 modules into a game and it kind of breaks.
Right.
I just reviewed Everdell on the channel. You cannot add in multiple modules. Like you're playing Pearlbrook, you're playing or Spirecrest or whatever it is. Like you cannot play Pearlbrook and Spirecrest. Like that's a bloated game.
Right.
And the way that Shaddy, the designer, is able to take these modules, but they don't kind of they don't like it doesn't like you may not like the game, but it works.
Right. So I actually have an opinion about that, which is that the game is not thematic in the traditional sense, but Shadi Torbe has a theme, and the theme is deck management. And he's so laser focused in on that mechanism. And he does this with all the games, right? Like, Nautilion was about, what if I made a rolling move? Like he focuses really hard in on that mechanism. And then every single module is a contribution to how you can continue with variations on that theme. So he stays on theme. And I think that that's why the modules all work. If that makes sense.
It's also the dedication to like good and bad. Like, okay, I'm gonna give something to you, and I'm gonna take something away.
Yes.
Yeah, and just every module does that. And you would think like it kind of gets rote after a while. No, keep going.
Yeah, I'm actually like really The other thing I want to say is, you mentioned that you started to have like higher win percentages. Everybody's always like, oh, replayability, am I gonna get enough out of this game? I'm gonna get my money's worth out of this game. First of all, I paid $25 for this game. I've definitely gotten enough time.
No question.
Like, absolutely.
I paid store credit for this game. I feel so good.
But the other thing is that I actually like the game, not just as like kind of win, but as a meditative practice. It captures the original spirit of Onirim, like the first entry, in that regard, more I think than any of the others.
I'll say like, okay, so yes, it very much reminds you of Onirim. If you look at my playthrough, all the cards are sleeved because there's a fair amount of shuffling. Not as much as Onirim, but there is shuffling.
Yeah, and but you do it to yourself. Like you chose to do it with your action.
You like to shuffle.
I do. I love it. I'm just like I have a fidget deck of cards in my desk. So.
And we'll get to like we're not going to re-rank the entire Oniverse, but we'll get to where it situates within all the different Oniverse games.
Yeah,
I'll say like when it comes to Onirim, the secret of that game is the key, and how it you use that, you get that key, and it's like, wow, this is like Willy Wonka's golden ticket, and I can like really do something. I could save it. I can do discard it for this other power, whatever it is. And so there's no moment like that in Stellarion. There's no moment of like golden key and like kind of almost like a mid-game culmination point. Like you're relying on getting to the point of executing that launch, and the launch does whatever it does. Yeah. So that feels cool, but it's like it's almost like that part feels like homework. Like I have to do this.
I like homework. No, seriously, like I joke about this in my Hadrian's Wall review, and we joked about it. We played that at PAX Unplugged. Like it's like doing your SAT, but like to me that was kind of a good thing.
Yeah. So like the launching it's a relief, really, because because you've done 5, 6, 7 moves, you plan things out, you have that little hope, like maybe you dug something out that you didn't expect to dig out, and so like launching those 4 cards is like a relief. It's like, okay, I've now proceeded this or like you're going through like a puzzle in an adventure game, like on a video game, and then you're doing puzzle, and then the door opens, right? And so it's like you watch the door open, and there's a satisfaction in that, but like it isn't active like this, like using a key, right, or whatever it is. So I know that's like a subtle point, but in terms of like the experiential thing, like, and it's such a small game, the subtle matters. So,
but as an anxious person, I derive pleasure from the preparation.
Yes. Okay.
And not from the surprise of loss, right? Which is the key. So, like for me, it actually works really nicely because it's like, oh, I felt more control in Stellarion. Like even though there's still some luck involved, you have more of a say. Like Onirim is luckier.
Yes. Yes.
And so for me, I like a little luck in my games.
Yes,
but I think Stellarion does it for me because it gives me more of a sense that I have some say.
That's okay. So you help me with that. So it's like, why is the key so valuable? Because the rest of Onirim is so lucky.
Yes.
You don't know what is coming, and you're constantly getting that surprise. You're on your heels a little bit in Onirim, and then the key gives you that feeling of control. It's like, okay,
Yes.
now I can manipulate things and get things together. Stellarion is very much like an actuarial table game played, and it's like, can I manage this actuarial table? Can I massage these boxes in Sudoku and make sure I am able to kind of like get that one. When you play in like a Sudoku game, you always like kind of have a couple of really difficult squares, and once you get them, it's like, okay, now the rest of the game is cake. So like, there's a bunch of like, you'll come to a couple points, Stellarion, where it's like, ooh, I can't, I don't know what to do. Ooh, you don't do that in Onium. Onium is smooth because it's so lucky and it gives you enough control. So this one gives you more of that, that agita.
But also, when you lose, it's your fault.
Yes, in Stellarion, yes, you lose, it is your fault. Yes.
But I appreciate that.
Like Onirim is that perfect combination of like breezy, but with enough control because of the key.
Yeah.
It's so frictionless in the way it does it. Stellarion, it lays it on you. It's like, you got to do. So because you know exactly what's in each deck, you don't know when it's coming, and you have to respond to what comes out of those decks, but what's in them, so play good.
Yeah, and like there will be the occasional game where you just cannot make it happen, especially if you have to do like a lot of shuffling powers, because there's one power that lets you shuffle a deck and then look at 2 cards and see what's on top and bottom. So if you're being honest with yourself and actually shuffling correctly, sometimes it just don't work out.
Yeah, and like if you get a lot of fish cards at a discard early.
Yeah.
Like if you're sitting there with 5 Nebula on your thing, is like that's your starting thing, like redeal.
Yeah.
Mulligan. That's where you mulligan.
But overall, all right. So okay, I think this kind of gives us a moment where we're gonna have to talk about where they fit for us. So I actually took the liberty of looking up our list from the last time we did this. So your 1 through 6 was Onirim, number 2 was Arion, number 3 was Castellion, number 4 was Sylveon, number 5 was Urbion, and number 6 was Nautilion.
Sure.
For me, I also put Onirim first. Yes. But I like Sylveon a little bit better. I love Tower Defense though. And then I had Arion at number 3, Urbion at number 4, Nautilion at number 5, and Castellion at number 6. Like something about Castellion, it's been years. I need to like look up exactly what was bugging me that bad about it. I don't hate it at all. I don't dislike any of these games actually.
Right.
But
my bottom game is a 7. Is a seal of approval and the Dice Tower and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So where would you put Stellarion in your list as it was?
So at time, things get re-ranked, and I've played them. I take them out like once a year, just kind of tour through them because I see my beautiful stack. That's the part of like collecting a set of games. Like you collect them in the stack, and it's just like beautiful. I'm gonna make my way to the stack today. So it's a solid 3. It is a solid 3 on the list. So I don't know if another game will come in. Like it would have to be really good to displace Onirim 1, Arion 2. I enjoy those games very, very much. Whether it's the base game or the expanded modules and all kind of stuff. Stellarion is a solid 3. Onirim is breezier. I don't get that angsty feeling when I'm playing Oniverse or when I'm playing Onirim. Onirim is that perfect combination of breezy, lucky, but I have control because of the key. Yeah. When the key does come, it just gives me that, like it hits that Goldilocks sweet spot for me. Stellarion leans into the puzzly nature, and I'm a Sudoku player. Or like different ones, Kokuro and cross sums and all. I love those variations. And so if I want that experience, then I'm gonna go to Stellarion. And I still play it. Like I finish usually I finish a playthrough because I'd have a full playthrough in one-stop co-op shop, and I put it away. It's like, all right, I'm good. This is what I kept playing. Like, I won't play again. I want to play again. That's a great sign.
So I really like this one. I think this one might actually be a 2 for me under the OG. Because again, for me, like it has some of the same, I see some Arion in it in terms of the collecting sets, but because I have to reason it out, I find more pleasure in that personally.
Right. Way less lucky than Arion. Like Arion is Yahtzee, and there's this inherent thing in Yahtzee, and it gives you enough to overcome. But yeah, you're still exciting. Stellarion, no, it's a Sudoku player's game. Yeah.
So for me, it really, really hits that spot. I will expect to be pulling it out just of an evening a lot over the next year.
And in terms of re-ranking, like Stellarion actually pushed Sylveon down. So I think Sylveon will be like my 5 or 6 now.
Yeah.
Because it stands out. So I like the feel of Sylveon, but I think if Shady had to do it again, he would design slightly differently.
Yeah.
Because like in Sylveon, like there's a lot of useless cards, right? The tree cards. The tree cards, like they are only currency in Sylveon. Like how many people are planting 7 trees in Sylveon? It's useless. You can't do anything with them. I think because Shady, there's just a natural inevitable thing. You mature as a designer. You get a little bit, you get a little bit better in terms of like using your resources, being more efficient, packing more in the box.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Sylveon was, I think, the second or third in the Oniverse, the second big box game. Yeah. And it kind of shows, I guess. I mean, in terms of a little bit of looseness of design, it feels good to play, but I don't think it's a very mathematically sound game, or it's not a firm basis at all. There's a lot of like, very unevenness there. So when Shady decides he wants to revisit Sylveon, I'll take another look, but Stellarion did that for me. Stellarion kind of made me want that stable experience. And upon that stable experience, there is fun to be had.
Yeah, I can see that. My opinions about Sylveon, I think that next time we actually do this full list, it'll be lower, but it's also partially because other tower defense games that I like that are, card based and just doable solo have arrived in the world.
Like you're doing all these war games and half of them are tower defense games. Like tower defense at this point.
Yeah, I love tower defense. But Sylveon doesn't necessarily stack next to some of the other options that I've been enjoying in the last couple of years. So I mean, it's still really good. I still like it. I still recommend it. We're not saying like never, no, like that's
what people assume. People assume that like if we don't think it's good, that it's bad. No, get out of the binaries, people. We enjoy all these games, and not you people. If this doesn't apply to you people, then
there are if it's about you.
Some folks out there that will, because we get the comments, further frequently of like, oh, you don't like this. We didn't say that, but that's how people project when we say when we don't like glowingly praise a game.
Well, like we play so many games though that it's kind of like food. Like not every meal you eat has some like a Zagat rating or whatever it is. Right. It's more that I think the thing that the Oniverse games do best is that they fit into a person's kind of gaming diet in a way that really makes a lot of sense. If you like these designs in general, they're all going to do something for you. There's enough variety between them that this set alone can give you a lot to do. They're not expensive. They're small. They have neat little modules to spice each individual one up. Like I think that I just have so much respect for this entire series because of what it delivers.
And I think it's the same price. Like, so whatever the price was, like $25, $30. I use store credit, so I don't exactly know, but it's in that range, not more than 30. And like that's crazy because everything's gone up. I have Star Wars: The Clone Wars over here, the pandemic game, and that was $60. What? I did not pay $60 for pandemic, and for more product to come out in this line, and for all of it, if you're like, let's say you're brand new to the series and you want to just buy it, like you can get all the games at the same price. Great.
You can get the full set for. I mean, Urbion doesn't count right now.
Not right now.
So
I'm taking Urbion off the list. By the way, I've taken Urbion off the list because I know we're getting the big box version, so I'm waiting for the big box version to come out.
Yes. But if you bought all 6 currently easily available ones now, that'd be what, $150 ish?
Yeah.
That's cheaper than most people spend on one Kickstarter. Like I've spent over $150 on one game that wasn't as good as any of these in the past couple years.
One game. I'm looking at a bunch of $150 on my floor right now in shrink. Hi, Burn Cycle. Hi. Horizon Zero Dawn. All these games.
Don't admit that, Jason. Don't admit it.
We're in a safe space. We could admit these things.
But I feel like these games just will always have a place in my collection. I like to game solo. I like solitaire stuff. These are all solid at a minimum.
Right, and this slot's right like near the top. So I'm a big Tiny Epic fan. So Tiny Epic is a that's a system that I really like, and I've gotten all the games for it. And I have to admit that like most of the more recent titles, they slot in kind of near the bottom. So it's like the bottom middle, like solid games, happy to own them, happy to play them, but very few of the more recent ones have kind of penetrated that top level. I can truly say, you know, 7 games into the Oniverse, Stellarion kind of fits into that top tier.
Yeah.
That's an achievement. That's great.
Yes.
I love that I can say that.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Yeah. So I guess that about sums up our opinions on Stellarion. Do you have any like last thoughts before we close out?
Chatty. That's it. That's all I got. Chatty, more. I'm in.
Absolutely. Yes. We are grateful for these lovely solo offerings. And I'm so happy that we're gonna get 3 more years of like a new one every year.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be the end of an era when that last one comes out, but I won't think about that for another 3 years.
I mean, I had Chatty in the show. Like he has more designs. And
yeah.
So Impatience is going to be his own design studio. He's going to use that to publish stuff. He's published a game by Morten Monrad Pedersen, which, I mean, we love Morten. So I'm an Automa person, if you don't know who Morten is. And so I'm hopeful to get that one on the table eventually. And he has more designs. Like he's cooking on like at least, you know, I don't want to put a number on it, but like way more than the 10 of the Oniverse. He says, okay, the Oniverse is for a particular experience.
Yeah.
The Oniverse is for, okay, that, like you said before, like one mechanism that is, you know, cooked into a game. And then that piece where it's like, okay, I can put in the modular pieces. And also like he is dedicated to the co-op. I think people kind of, you know, poo-poo on the co-ops in some of these games. But
I'm absolutely guilty of that. It's true. That's fair.
Yeah, some of them are I feel personally don't work, but he's dedicated to it. And some of them do work. I mean, you know, the Arion co-op is actually pretty good. And I've actually played Oniverse co-op a fair number of times. So like he needs to be happy with the core, what's there, the modular pieces and the co-op in order for it to be Oniverse. But there's plenty of games he's designed a 2-player co-op. He has a pure solo that resists a co-op for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And he wants to publish those games. We'll see if he can, but we're definitely going to get more Chatty. Even if we don't get more Oniverse, we'll get more Chatty. And I think, and so that there's that piece. And I think the artist style will change across the different games. So we even mentioned the art. Like the art is Elise Placis, I think her name is, and more. It's charming to be in this world, and you like it or you don't, but it's more of what that artist is producing. So.
Yeah, I dig it personally. I think it makes it so distinctive. Like an Oniverse game doesn't look like anything else.
And so Oniverse will be coded. You know, we'll have a parentheses around it, but there will be more Chatty. There will be more Impatience games. So looking forward to those.
Absolutely. And for now, though, we got Stellarion. It's very enjoyable. Jason and I both recommend it. So thanks so much, y'all, for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, support me on Patreon or the One Stop Co-op Shop on Patreon, or, you know, all of us. I know y'all are also rich out there. Most of all.
Contribution. Hey, look, $1 or $2. Most people who are in this hobby at least can afford $1 or $2 a month. And if you prioritize our 2 channels, then we would greatly appreciate it.
But most of all, happy gaming.
Later, everybody.